Hello, you're watching News9 Live. The recent and unfortunate death of a software engineer due to flooding of an underpass has raised several questions on Bengaluru's crumbling infrastructure. Now, an international realty firm, Knight and Frank, carried out an extensive study on the reasons behind the flooding in Bengaluru. It's high time someone does. The study concluded that the city needs 600 kilometers of drains in addition to the existing 800 kilometers. This remodeling of the city's drains could cost the exchequer 2,800 crore rupees or $339 million. The study also found that the primary drains of the city along the natural drain valleys are still in existence and have not vanished as the secondary and tertiary drains. The city's growing population and real estate boom had led to encroachments of these drains, leading to the current urban flooding problem in the city. The study also revealed that the interconnections between the lakes that transferred excessive water have been damaged and encroached due to construction of concrete structures. Bengaluru's population is expected to rise to 18 million by the year 2031, and the infrastructure pressure on the city is only going to increase, as it is true about the rest of the metropolises in India. So, does this report evoke renewed hope for the recurring mess in Bengaluru year after year? Is this really the fix the city is looking for? Let's deep dive into it and figure what really is the real solution. To speak with us, we are being joined by guest Shantanu Mazumdar, who is MRICS Executive Director at Knight Frank India. We should also be joined later by Sandeep Anirudhan, Convener, Citizens Agenda for Bengaluru. Let me also tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that almost every day we have been focusing on the flooding and the mayhem that the rains create in Bengaluru. It's our endeavor, along with you, those who are watching the show, to find a solution rather than keep speaking about the problems. But then where will the solutions go unless there are problems? So we'll focus on both. But there is hope, one feels, and eternal. Shantanu Mazumdar, a very, very warm welcome to you on the show. I just want you to please start by telling the viewers about what this report has actually highlighted, Shantanu.
Good afternoon, sir. This is the first time that we have come out with a report which typically talks about the flooding issue, and we have been coming out with infrastructure report, but this is something which is very peculiar, and
Right.
this is something wherein Bangalore as a city has been facing a lot of issues with regard to flooding over the past few years, and now it's become a recurring problem. So we thought of kind of deep dive into the data and kind of try to understand exactly what's going on and where the gap is. So it's basically the report is trying to is giving you insight in terms of gap where it exists, the growth opportunity that is there with the city. We have seen that in terms of the built-up footprint of the city has increased multiple folds. So right from 2002, it was the built-up area within the city limit was about 35 odd percent, which is now increased to as high as 95%. So that clearly shows that the city is growing, it's developing, and it's creating a lot of opportunity. So the development, the growth, we can't stop. But simultaneously, we have to also kind of understand where does the infrastructure rest, and understand in terms of the existing infrastructure. That's where the data says that the existing infrastructure in terms of the drainage system is about 850 odd kilometers of drainage system. But with the current footprint of the city, the built up area, there is a shortfall. The shortfall is coming around 650 kilometers of shortfall. So that is something wherein that gap is something which we have understood that there is a gap. There are various reasons attached to the problem of flooding. So we are basically, the entire city of Bangalore is sitting between 5 different valleys. So every valley has different pockets and different lakes, and every lake has interconnecting channels with it. So there are primary channels, there are secondary channels, there are tertiary channels. Primary channels are something wherein it's directly connecting between both two lakes. And then there are
Shantanu, let me
overflow
come back
channels.
to you. Shantanu, let me come back to you. Let me also welcome, someone who's worked on this as well. So it's so good to have both of you, Shantanu and Sandeep Anirudhan, to put a proper perspective, to take a proper perspective of this entire thing. So, Sandeep, thank you for joining. We're talking about this report, by called Bengaluru Urban Flood. I'm sure you've taken a look at it, considering
Yes,
that
I have.
it's, yeah,
Sudha.
you have. So, the first thing is that they say that, we need to lay an additional 600 kilometers of a stormwater drain to mitigate recurrent flooding in the city. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Do you think that is one solution? Because you have focused, in debates after debates about how, Rajakalways, as they are known, they have been ruined totally in these last 50 years and nothing was done about it. So, this report, I think is, any solution is most welcome, no, Sandeep? I mean, anyone who's working for it. Do you think this is one solution, of having an additional 600 kilometers apart from the 800 odd kilometers?
Well, it is not rocket science to state the obvious, that of course a drainage network is required. It has been encroached upon, it has been destroyed. The report that you're referring to mentions that most of the Rajakalways have been reduced in half. We're talking only of length. They've also been shrunk by more than 90% in many places. So the carrying capacity of those is diminished by at least 90%. The other thing is we are talking of only drains here. And we're talking of a plan for drains, which is absolutely wrong. What we need is for a master plan for the city. You know why I'm stressing on this? If the city had a good master plan, we wouldn't have come to the state where we have to have plans for drains, because the catchment of water, water flows of the city, the topology, everything would have been factored in a master plan, and the development plan for the city would have taken into account these things, and the city would have had a proper growth. Because we don't have master plans, since we don't do master planning, we don't have a planning authority, we are left in this situation today. Now, the question is, the water that falls after a rain, how is it to be handled? Traditionally, it used to flow along the valleys. So basically, it used to flow through the floodplains, then the marshes, then into the Rajakalways, and then it would go from lake to lake, because we have like a interconnected series of lakes. But a lot of water used to percolate into the ground because soil was permeable. Right now, Bengaluru's top surface has become concretized. It's concretized to as much as 95%, which means the water which used to percolate into the ground does not percolate anymore, which means the drains have to handle that extra capacity, maybe 50% under 100% or 200% more water flows into the drains. Now, this is another reason for flooding. And the third thing you have to remember is, our drains used to have water seasonally. Our lakes also used to have water seasonally. Now, we are in a situation where an equivalent amount of water is being pumped from Kaveri, that is about 100 kilometers away, into Bengaluru. Now, those go into our bathrooms and kitchens and flow out into our Rajakalways and lakes, which is why now they have water perennially, which means now the drains have to also handle the extra load. I mean, it's not like one rainy season. They have to handle 2 rainy seasons load of water.
Right, but Sandeep, I'm stopping you, but these Rajakalways were also built because Bengaluru did not have a perennial river, right? Am I right? That was one of the reasons that they were built.
Rajakalways were natural. See, basically, as Shantanu said, Bengaluru is a ridge, and then you have about 5 valleys flowing into all 5 directions. Now, how does water flow? Water will always flow from the highest point to the lowest point.
The lower,
So the center of the valley becomes an automatic Rajakalway.
All right.
Now, originally Bengaluru did not have lakes. In fact, every single lake in Bengaluru is artificial. So about 2000 years back, our local inhabitants figured out, if we just put a check dam along the Rajakalway, and the Rajakalways are basically rivers. They are not like what you see now, half meter or 2 meters and all that. They used to be 20 meters, 30 meters, sometimes as wide. Like Vrishabhavati is actually a Rajakalway, it's a river. So they were huge. So you put a check dam, it becomes a lake. And that is how around 2000 lakes in Bengaluru are built by the local inhabitants.
Yeah, but then they have been encroached upon. They have been encroached upon. They have been destroyed.
We modern residents of the city have only destroyed.
Yes, because I have heard, I've heard about the central bus terminus. I mean, someone was
Yes.
telling me about this morning and I was shocked. So, Shantanu, let me come back to you. You heard what Sandeep said. Now, do you think that, because I also read about, earlier that let's concretize these SWDs, and then there was a lot of protest from the Indian Institute of Science. There were people who said, no, don't do that. That will spell more trouble. It is harakiri. Now, tell me, Sandeep, tell me, Shantanu, how do you plan to go about this? You've said this is the solution. How do you move forward? And do you think it will be a permanent solution? Because, like I see we already had storm water drains. They were ruined. They were encroached upon. They are all clogged. Now, with extra thing, how are you going to maintain them is my question to you, Shantanu Majumdar.
There are two things we need to look at. One is today we know there is a population growth, there is a urbanization that has taken place. Also, we know that there is a climate change that is going on. So obviously, because of all these reasons, we are kind of facing this particular problem. I agree with Sandeep in terms of that the city needs a master plan. It needs to have a comprehensive stormwater master plan, and that is what is missing right now. And if we are going to have this particular master plan, you need to involve the experts, or you need to involve the urban planners, you need to involve the environmentalists, the stakeholders, and you have to kind of work out the entire feasibility. And also, not just the master plan, we have to also look at adopting alternate flood control techniques. So what was going on, whatever needs to be done, whatever has happened, but we need to do a course correction right now. And by having this particular master plan with all the experts on board, we have to design a system which is going to be foolproof for the next 50, 60, 100 years. I think that is what is required to be done right now at this particular point of time. And in terms of development, yes, the development will not stop. The development will continue to happen. So
Right.
we have to figure it out how the development and the entire thing needs to kind of go hand in hand. We also kind of did a bit of a study in terms of how much time it will take if you want to, if the will is there to have this particular committee in place and have to need to have a particular master plan, comprehensive master plan. Probably it is going to take a year and a half for you to kind of put your house into order.
Right.
But then after that, you have to go ahead with the execution.
Absolutely. Very well said. Sandeep, I want to come to you. Now, they have a plan. And Sandeep, Shantanu said that, yes, master plan, he concurs with you. But the point is that one can't do it in isolation, right? I mean, a couple of us, we can't get together. We can only say this is possible. Unless there is an involvement, a partnership with BBMP, with the local government, with the government of the day. I mean, how does that happen? Because if you look at it, a lot of people also blame no elections in BBMP for more than 2 years as one of the reasons that Bengaluru has been left to the designs of erratic nature. Climate change is also a very important part of this report because they said it's erratic. What do? We can only look for solutions. So do you think, because this has been suggested even earlier, lots of experts have come together, in the ex-chief minister Bommai's time, 1500 crores was given to BBMP and said, you go and play with it. But like I'm asking, don't you think there has to be a proper kind of commitment for this plan to go further? And those who are watching this show, this is for the betterment of Bengaluru. Yes, go on, Sandeep.
Sudha, many people are not aware that a draft RMP 2031 plan is already ready. In 2018 and 19, it was open to public consultation. In fact, it is a very well-made master plan, surprisingly, even though it was not followed the 74th Amendment mandate. So here's what I suggest. Don't wait to create a fresh, the government, the previous BJP government was trying to create a fresh master plan. It called tenders, then it cancelled it, again it called tenders. In fact, 2031 RMP master plan has also been held up by the courts because it has not followed the process that is listed in the 74th Amendment. Now, again, the government keeps making the same mistakes. Again, it asks the BDA to make master plans and it gets held up in courts. Now, the master plan has multiple layers. It also has a drainage plan. It has an ecology plan. It actually has a drainage plan. So, why should we create a drainage plan separately? It's not necessary. The city's comprehensive development plan is what has to take into account all aspects of the city's development,
Right.
which includes the drainage plan, lakes, forests, everything, ecology. So here's my suggestion. The draft RMP 2031 is already ready. It is pretty well made. I have seen lots of it. It's extremely well made. Maybe there are some errors. So to comply with the 74th Amendment, all they have to do, see, we already have a Metropolitan Planning Committee,
Right.
which is not functional. So the first thing DK Shivkumar, the Bangalore City Development Minister, can do is empower the Metropolitan Planning Committee, because that is the planning authority. He has to appoint members to it. This can be his first achievement in office. Once the MPC is ready, it can adopt the RMP 2031, review it, and open it for public consultation from every ward level and area level.
Right.
Take inputs from every ward and area, integrate it into this. Within 6 months, you can issue the next master plan for the city. It is not rocket science. It is already ready. It has gone through multiple reviews. All it needs is proper official due process. Why is it such a big problem to solve? It is an easy problem to solve.
Yeah, but
it can be done because it's already
you,
ready.
yeah, because you know, Sandeep, you've raised a question. So the thing is that I will throw that question to Shantanu, and ladies and gentlemen, those who are watching this program, that's what we are talking about. Look at this final solution for Bengaluru's mess. Perhaps, you know, this is the final solution. Maybe next year, if people like organizations and people come together, maybe, who knows, next year in monsoon, you can actually enjoy the rains in Bengaluru. That's my wish. That's absolutely my wish. It's a city that I truly, truly love and also belong to. Let me come to Shantanu. Shantanu, Sandeep, you know, raised a lot of questions, and that's exactly was my question also, and I wanted that to come from your co-panelist Shantanu. The thing is, this has been going on for years. I'm sure you know, because you must have done enough legwork. You know, earlier Chief Minister says you take 1500 crores, someone said you take 3000 crores, but do this, but nothing came to fruition. We are standing at the same spot, and now, you know, Sandeep Anirudhan says there is also a master plan. Maybe you need to tweak it a bit, you know, do some cosmetic surgery to it. I am just asking you, you know, if how do you go forward? I mean, will you try and get a new master plan? Also, how will you get the government sign in, you know, the government inking it in, as it were, to this entire plan of Knight and Frank?
See, the government has, because this particular master plan, that's the basic thing that is required on ground, because without that you can't really do anything. So one, there's you have to have people also on board. The committee needs to be in place, and then you have to get into the execution mode. So till the time you're not going to get into the execution mode, everything remains on paper. We'll keep on debating about it, we will keep on discussing it, but there is no end to it. So I think from a government point of view, it's high time for them, because now it's no longer a recurring problem in terms of it doesn't happen once in a while. Now it's a recurring problem, now it's become a daily problem. So every time it rains, there is a problem. So it's extremely high time right now, in terms of wherein we kind of, if we have to pull out the RMP 31, we have to sit down, we have to make sure that the people are coming on board, and then we have to get into the execution mode. Till such time nothing will change, and this is something which is not going to happen overnight, one thing. So if we start today, we will see the result over next maybe couple of years, but but we have to start. So the problem is, we are not even starting, we are only discussing the problem.
So how will you start? You said you're only discussing it. Do you mean you're discussing it with me, Shantanu? I mean, or
so we all are discussing it. We all are discussing
Yeah.
it today. The government needs to act.
you know, that's the question. You've nailed it. You know, you've nailed it. That was my question. There are plans, there are people, well-meaning people who want Bengaluru to improve. They don't want this mess. And you know, that very unfortunate death of that young person, you know, a techie, all of 22-year-old, you know, the thing is. So I want to ask you also, I know that, I mean, don't answer it if you really, you're not the right person, Shantanu, but do you think these underpasses, look at that, you know, Bhanu Rekha, you know, it was such a waste of a life. I mean, she would have been alive. So these underpasses where her car drowned, also, you know, the government warned, or rather the BBMP warned, don't go near flyovers, etc. Who's responsible for this mess, Shantanu?
honestly speaking, I have no answers to it in terms of there is a death, there is a problem. We all know. I think probably the experts on board would be are the right people in terms of to kind of comment on this, because if the underpass has been designed, then the it should have taken care of all these things. It
Absolutely,
should have
but
taken, yeah.
yeah, but Shantanu, the thing is, it's very sad, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
nevertheless, a death is a death, and all of us mourn for it. Mourn for it. I mean, you are saying that we are only discussing it. Of course, you also included me in this, Shantanu. That's anyway, it's okay. But we have to get ahead and actually execute it. I totally agree with you, and that is where my fear is. That is where my fear is. Lovely plan. Yes, Sandeep wants to come in. Go ahead, Sandeep Anirudhan.
Sudha, I also want to point out that in terms of urban planning world over, all cities are swerving towards the concept called sponge city.
Huh.
Correct.
I don't know if you've heard of this.
Yeah.
And there's a particular reason why. See, the entire world is going through climate change crisis, which means you're having erratic weather patterns due to relentless extraction of our resources. Now we are running short of water. The entire world is going through a water crisis. So, and cities have developed in the last 100 years on this Western model of, concretizing, destroying the environment. And they didn't realize that they were destroying their own water sources and groundwater.
Right.
So now groundwater, say in Bangalore right now, in Whitefield especially, borewells are being dug at 1,500 and 1,700 feet. It is completely unhealthy to drink this water. But that's where we are today. When water was available, and I'll tell you what this pond city concept is. The water that falls in a place should go into the ground. It should get absorbed. And that is how our cities used to be before. In fact, everywhere. Like our entire network of Rajakaluves and lakes and marshes and wetlands used to ensure that every drop of water used to get accumulated in these reservoirs, or they would go into the ground. Therefore, our grandfathers' houses and our parents' houses always had a well in their courtyard.
Yes.
Water was available at 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet.
Right.
Today, we are drilling borewells to 1,500 feet. Okay, which means there is no water going into the ground. This is the big complication. How did this get messed up? It's because the British who brought this, what I would term as bad science. Earlier, we used to have this system. We built these lakes to put water into the ground, and it was getting recycled. So every rainfall, rainy season, water would go into the ground. We used to absorb it. The British came with a system where we just pumped the water, put it into pipes and send it to homes. They were not concerned with how the water was recycling.
Right.
And gradually we lost contact with the source of the water. Now the water comes from 100 kilometers away. So we followed bad science for about 100 years. Now world over, they're trying to reverse it. They're calling, like Shanghai, I think, is becoming a sponge city. A lot of other cities, Korea, a lot of countries are invoking the concept of sponge city, where they are rebuilding wetlands so that the water is retained where it falls and it goes into the ground.
Really, yeah.
They don't suffer a water shortage.
Yeah, so that sounds really, yeah, that's forward planning. But we always kind of think in hindsight. I mean, I don't know why we had every natural resource. Cities like Chennai, Bengaluru, even Bombay, we've destroyed wetlands, and what we've done is these concrete. I want to come to you, Shantanu. Now you say 2,800 crores, and you also say that Bengaluru by 2031 will be home to 180 lakh people. Am I right? That's what your report says. Am I right?
Correct.
Those statistics?
Correct.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
I'm asking you this question, that you think that this projection of 2,800 crores will suffice for, I mean, is it commensurate with the, commensurate with the increase in population that you see? Because already I think, 4 or 5 years ago, there was talk about 1,500 crores, then 3,000 crores. You are talking about 2,800 crores. Where do you get this figure from?
See, this particular figure has been worked out basis our data in terms of the international data also that we have in terms of how much it takes in terms of to kind of build a new drainage system in terms of per kilometer wise. And this is also a combination wherein we are saying that the existing drainage system also needs to be kind of upgraded, regenerated, upgraded and modified also. So this is a combination of both the things, factors, which is basically based on our research data, and that is something which we have picked up internationally also, what we have kind of seen other countries and other cities. So that is basis that only. in terms of the number, whether 2,800 CR is good enough, we feel it is good enough. But the thing is, again, the point comes to that you have to start. Unless until you don't do, you don't spend, you don't know whether this is good enough or less or more or whatever it is. So today we have all these budget allocations and stuff and everything, but on ground the activity is not taking place. So
So you are
that's
waiting
what
for, so you're waiting for a green lighting by the government, am I right? I mean, you're just waiting to meet the right kind of people so that they give you a go ahead and you can be in a partnership and then you can start work. Am I right, Shantanu?
No, we are not going to start the work. The government has to do the work.
Yeah, right.
We are,
So, yeah. So,
we are just highlighting the gaps and we are giving an
What I
insight in
meant
terms
was
of,
a validation of your report so that it can be executed further. But the point, I also want to ask you something, Shantanu, that, you know, that I think is red tapeism. It's a new government in place. Don't you think they need some more time? I think the Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar is taking stock of the situation. But I'm just asking you, I don't want you to comment on politics perhaps, but I want to ask you, how soon should this be started? What is the time? Because, you know, every report also says you should start by this time to salvage any further damage. So do you have a time frame at all?
no, it should have started as of yesterday. So why we are waiting for it? I think today the government is in place. People are in place, resources are in place. We have to just have the willingness to kind of put people together and just go about doing their business. Their business is to kind of take care of the infrastructure and do the planning and kind of see to it that the executions are taking place. I think that we every day that we are discussing this, we are losing time.
Very well said. Let me come to you, Sandeep Anirudhan. So, you know, you have evoked, I mean, you have referred to the 74th Amendment. You have spoken about devolution. You have spoken about decentralization. You have spoken about a very sturdy plan where you don't have to go back and say, oh my God, in hindsight, I think we should have done this. You're talking about a very, very good plan which will stand in good stead for generations to come, you know. Now, you heard what Mr. Majumdar said. He said it should have started yesterday. That's what Shantanu is saying. The thing is, you know, I'm asking you this because you don't mince your words. Do you think that the politicians will have the time to say, okay, you are experts, here is a report, and I'm not really, I mean, it could be anybody, you, Shantanu, me, but if we have a sturdy plan, do you think the government, because, you know, we have heard of corruption, we've heard of dereliction of duty, we've heard of several other things. Do you have any hope that they will say, okay, let's go ahead with this? Because that's what Bengaluru needs now.
Sudha, number one, this drainage plan will not work on its own if it is not part of a comprehensive development plan. Because everything is interlinked in a city, construction, land use, transportation, everything. So it should be part of that. And second thing, I don't know, I'm out of curiosity because I still haven't seen the report. It's not in the public domain. Shantanu, have you factored in concrete drains or is it going to be a sponge drains where water percolates into the ground? He can answer it whenever. But I'll come to the problems. The reason one for the degradation of this stormwater drain network and how it can be corrected, you have to go to the elephant in the room. And that elephant in the room is the nexus between politicians, corrupt bureaucrats, engineers, contractors and consultants.
Yes.
Yeah.
Contractors.
So this nexus is the cause for this deterioration. This politicians, contractors, consultants, and real estate mafia. This nexus is the cause for not having planned development also. The reason we don't have master plans, the reason we don't have a metropolitan planning committee, the reason we don't have decentralized governance is because these people don't want it to be there. Then they cannot keep extracting from Bengaluru the way they are doing, because right now it's a situation where there is no policeman. They can keep plundering. They've filled soil into all the wetlands. They've created documents to, you know, make fake documents to show that it is private land. It's only after somebody constructs the building there and when rains come, you realize it was a wetland. Okay. So now two things need to be fixed. I think this government, see, this crisis fighting mode will go on because right now, whatever solution we are planning takes some time. That doesn't mean we should go about it in an unplanned manner. We should fix the core of the issue. We should go in a planned approach at least now. Otherwise, this will keep compounding. So the government's first priority should be to activate the Metropolitan Planning Committee and take up RMP, that is the Revised Master Plan 2031, which is already ready. They just have to have public consultation and process it through the Metropolitan Planning Committee. It will not face any legal challenges. Second thing, under the Ministry of Environment, there is a body called the Wetland Authority, the State Wetland Authority.
Okay.
It is doing nothing right now. Its primary duty is to identify every single wetland.
Right.
When I say wetland, you're talking of streams, Rajakaluways, marshes, lakes, rivers, buffer zones of all of these. They're supposed to identify, map, and protect them. This is the job of this department. It is sitting in the Ministry of Environment in Karnataka, in Bangalore. They are doing nothing. They are supposed to be protecting all of these
So,
wetlands.
you know, what you are saying is all this is possible.
Has to activate that also.
They have to activate and they will be, there is hope you say, which is very good, but provided there is a big if, all caps, you know, that's what you're saying. Let them kind of be proactive. But, you know, Shantanu, would you like to take the question that Sandeep asked you?
So in terms of our report, yes, we have captured all these things. The report will in fact there are suggestions also. The sponsor thing is also a recommendation in our report, because that's the way things should go in terms of going forward. You have to plan all these things, and this is a perfect example, because that's where you kind of connect with the environment and see to it that whatever water is kind of coming down, it is basically managed and it is kind of recycled naturally rather than artificially. So in terms of budget wise, I would say yes, we have factored a few of these things, and in terms of both for the existing drainage system as well as the new drainage system, that is what we have calculated for.
Well, you know something, I mean, it's always good to discuss, Shantanu. I'm sorry, but we will all discuss, keep discussing, and the discussion I think will someday bear fruit. And after all, it's about a lovely city, Bengaluru. You know, it was called a paradise for retired people. It was called a city of gardens. It's a beautiful city, beautiful weather, everything. And I think it needs to be, like Sandeep said, it needs to be conserved, and for various reasons. It is not just for the beauty, but it has to be conserved. I mean, it's part of, you know, a lovely heritage, and it is part of how we look at master planning and urban spaces. Let me thank both of you for this wonderful conversation, Shantanu Majumdar and also Sandeep Anirudhan. Thank you indeed. That's what we were discussing, and I think we'll discuss this every day until Bengaluru actually finds a solution to the mess that it has every year, and we pray that Bengaluru has a solution sooner rather than later. Namaskara.